Good morning and welcome everyone to this webinar from the Southeast Network for Social Sciences, focusing on the summer research experience placements. I'm Professor Fragiskos Filipeos. I'm the Deputy Director for SENS, and I have responsibility for training, development of postgraduate research students in the network. I'm here today to talk to you about the very exciting scheme, the Summer Research Experience Placement Scheme, which focuses on giving undergraduate students an opportunity to experience in a very short period of time how it is to work with an experienced supervisor, how it is to work on a particular research project, and then perhaps look at the aspirations, developing aspirations for future postgraduate research studies. So what is it? As I said already, it is an opportunity for you to work with a supervisor on a research project over the summer of 2023. In the initial launch of the scheme last year, SENS received the opportunity to host 8 summer research experience placements. We have awarded 4 last year, and this year we're in the position to offer another 2. All these placements are funded by the Economic and Social Research Council, which is also the main funder for SENS. Now, one of the things that I want to highlight here is that from last year's scheme, out of the 4 applications, out of the 4 students that effectively participated in the scheme, 3 of them were able to secure, consequently, PhD funding through SENS. At SENS, we are able to fund what we call 1+3 studies. So we are able to fund students that come directly from their undergraduate studies, offer them a stipend and fees for their master's degree, which is the +1, and then a stipend and fees for their PhD for 3 additional years. So if you're an undergraduate student currently finishing your 2nd year, this is an excellent opportunity to work with an experienced supervisor, think about a potential project, and then perhaps submit an application for SENS funding. We're going to be launching the student-led competition in October 2023, and perhaps secure funding to do your PhD as well as your master's. Now, the timeline for this year's scheme, we started in February. We had supervisors submitting applications. We had a review of those applications and the selection of 2. We've opened the scheme a few days ago. The deadline for your applications is 5 o'clock British Summer Time on the 24th of May. And then we're going to have a selection period, perhaps with a few interviews after the 24th of May, with the view to start the projects on the 15th of June at the earliest. And then, of course, these projects can run throughout the summer. The maximum is 8 weeks. So someone can work in July and August, perhaps the 1st week of September. This is something that you will be deciding together with your supervisor. And then, of course, sometimes the work is face-to-face. Sometimes the work is on a hybrid basis, online, and therefore you've got plenty of opportunity to shape with the supervisor the project and to shape the working relationship. So it's very, very flexible. The funding for this scheme, it's up to £3,000 for those 8 weeks. And that comes in the form of a stipend that you will be receiving from the host institution that you will be working for. Now, the philosophy of the scheme, so why the ESRC has actually created this scheme, it has to do with the encouragement and support to students that are coming from underrepresented backgrounds to move into postgraduate training and careers in research. As I said, this is an excellent opportunity for you to experience research, for you to actually see and find out firsthand what is it to be a PhD researcher, a postgraduate researcher, and that was the main motivation behind ESRC creating the summer research experience placement scheme for students coming from underrepresented backgrounds to effectively give them this opportunity. What usually happens is students that participate in the summer research experience placements become an employee of the host organization, and effectively you receive a salary, as I said, up to a maximum of £3,000 for the 8 weeks that you will be working for that organization. This year, we have two very exciting projects that we are currently advertising. One is based at the University of East Anglia, and the other one is based at the University of Essex. The first one has the title Relational Patterns and Parent-Child Interaction in Refugee or Displaced Family, where the child has a developmental disability. It's administered by Dr. Meghana Wandarkar-Campbell, and you've got the email there if you want to contact her and ask questions about the project. And the other one at the University of Essex is Understanding Public Support for Science-Based Policies, administered by Dr. Sergio Loiacono. As I said, at the University of Essex, again, the email there is for you to basically ask any additional questions you might have. Now, in order to be eligible for this scheme, students must be in the middle years of their first degree. What do we mean by middle years? So you should be either at the end of your first year or at the end of your second year. Students that are expected to graduate this summer, I'm afraid, are not eligible for this scheme. And this is not rules that we make up, it's rules that we basically have to accept from ESRC. Students should also come from an underrepresented group, and in the application process, we ask you to tell us which group you feel that you're coming from. And there is a range of options there. First of all, students might come from areas of low higher education participation, low household income, or low socioeconomic status. Students could come from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic BAME backgrounds, mature students, disabled students, or students who are caregivers. And as I said in the application, we ask you to confirm that you come from one of these backgrounds, and therefore you are eligible for the scheme. So two things: you need to be either at the end of your second or at the end of your first year, and belong to one or more of these areas in order to be eligible for participating. You don't need to be from a SENS institution. You could come from any institution around the country, and as I said, the supervisors and you, if you're successful, you will sit down and draft a of research, a plan, work in progress over the summer that sometimes might require a couple of physical kind of face-to-face interactions with the supervisor, but most of the time it will be on a hybrid mode through online meetings. So you don't need to come from a SENS institution. You can come from any institution around the UK in order to participate in this scheme, as long as you meet the two eligibility criteria that I've already mentioned, either at the end of your first or your second year and come from one of the underrepresented groups. We have a relatively straightforward application process. The application is very brief. I'll explain in a minute what are the key questions we ask. This is the link. You can find the link here through the presentation, but you can also find the link on the website we have specifically for SENS Summer Research Experience Placements, and I'll give you the website in a minute. The deadline for all applications to submit your expression of interest is 5 o'clock British Summer Time on the 24th of May 2023. So 5 o'clock British Summer Time on the 24th of May 2023. It's another 10 days between now and the application deadline. What is the application asking you to submit? First of all, some personal details, your name, your institution, your email, so we can get in touch. We ask you to identify which project you're applying for, And then we ask you to give us a personal statement, which could cover a number of these areas. First of all, we would like to find out why you're applying for a SENS Summer Research Experience placement. What are your motivations? What are your aspirations? Do you consider this an opportunity to experience research? Do you consider this an opportunity to spend your summer working with the supervisor, putting an additional line on your CV? What is it that motivates you to apply for this particular project? It might be that, for example, you've got a research interest in this area. Students can apply for both projects, but in order to apply for both projects, you would need to submit 2 separate applications. So you can apply for one project, then submit your application, and then use the link again to apply for the second project if you feel that you've got the characteristics, the skills, the ability to undertake both projects. Then you need to address a number of issues in setting out why you're applying for this placement, and you have a maximum of 500 words for this section. You can answer the question in a box which is directly underneath the question, or we are allowing you to upload a separate document. So why you're applying for this particular SENS CSRC funded placement? Why do you think you're well suited to this project and to working with specific academic supervisors? What are the skills you're bringing to the projects? Perhaps you can make reference to the undergraduate studies you're currently making. You can basically talk about your experience. You can talk about your professional experience, so on and so forth. You can talk about, perhaps having been through a situation like that. Then you can explain your understanding of the potential contribution of the project, and perhaps whether you consider that this project might have an impact outside academia, and then of course tell us how well prepared you are for taking up this placement in terms of your training and or professional experience. Obviously, we don't expect you, especially if you're just finishing your first year of your undergraduate degree, to be extremely well prepared, but you're going to be working with an experienced supervisor and they can help you. And equally from SENS, we can support you to basically undertake a number of these training projects. And then, of course, we've got a section where we ask you if you have any professional experience, again, that can count towards your application in a positive, favorable manner. How are we going to select the candidates? We're going to have 2-stage process. First of all, we're going to be shortlisting together with the supervisors. And then for selected candidates, we will be asking them to come and do a short interview. We're looking at the applicant suitability, so your skills, your experience, and how close those things match with the project. Your excellence and preparedness, how far have you prepared yourselves through your prior studies, your marks, your extracurricular kind of activities. And then, of course, what are your training needs? How can we identify training needs that we can basically support you? So these are the 3 criteria we use, and these are very similar to the criteria we actually use for our student selection process for the PhD funding for SENS. We have a dedicated website. The recording of this video is going to be on this website. We've got a detailed description of all available placements. So the 2 supervisors have given additional information for those 2 placements. We provide a link to the application. We provide detailed guidance on the application process. We've got recording as of this webinar, as well as you can also watch a recording that we did last summer with one of the students that was successful in securing a summer research experience placement. The recording took place in July during our annual summer conference. Daniela Hardikerova is a Kent-based student. She's a mature student. She participated in the scheme. Consequently, she did an application for PhD funding, and she was one of those students that were successful in securing PhD funding. And you could see, the interview took place in the summer. She was just thinking about that application, and it's really, really, for us, aspiring to see a student coming from their undergraduate, being successful in this scheme and then securing funding to undertake a PhD project. The website for the SENS summer placements is there. You can click, you can skim through it, find a bit more information. And of course, if you've got any additional questions, we are here to help you and support you in this application process. In the beginning of my presentation, you will see in the original slide, I have got my email, which is DEP, DEP, director, DIRECTOR, at senss, dtp.ac.uk. You can email me, or you can email the two supervisors with any additional questions you might have regarding this scheme. We look forward to receiving your applications and to seeing quite a few of you in the interview process. Thank you very much for attending this webinar today and for your participation, and we're looking forward to receiving your applications. Thank you very much.